Good morning, I'm Doug Smith, and welcome to the 29 March 2013 edition of Portsmouth This Week, the voice of Portsmouth Town Hall. My guest today is Linda Finn, our state rep from District 72, representing Middletown and Portsmouth. Linda, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
I'm delighted to have you on the program today. You're new in politics, and I just wondered, the first question I really had for you was, why did you get involved in this?
That's a good question. Thank you. Well, I am new. It's the first time I'm elected, first time I've run, and part of why I did it is that, you know, just watching on the national level and the local level, I just felt like we didn't have enough good people in there. We didn't have enough people in there that have business experience and are, you know, come from a small business background and have children in the community that just don't seem to be voting on things that are important to what's important to me. And I'd gotten involved in Obama's campaign and David Cicilline's campaign, and I kind of enjoyed going out knocking door to door, and just thought, you know, maybe it's time to just kind of jump in and maybe make a difference. I mean, I do a lot of volunteer work and a lot of things in the community, and I just felt like maybe I could expand on that a little bit more. So.
Well, I applaud you for doing that. You know, and you've been in office now just a few months. How do you think you're doing so far?
I think I'm doing all right. I mean, it's an interesting, you know, it's a really great place. I'm enjoying it tremendously. I'm really, you know, went up there kind of skeptical of the people that are there, and I'm really surprised at, you know, really how dedicated people are, and how people really are trying to work and make things, you know, make Rhode Island a better place and do the right thing. I mean, there's always this, you know, there's certainly people there that are just there to get reelected, but I don't, you know, I'm pleasantly surprised with the people and you know, the process, and I'm really enjoying it.
Well, that's really great to know, because
yeah.
I would be with you on kind of wondering about what really goes on up there.
Right.
What are your main priorities? I know you've got a lot of background in education and other issues, but what are your main priorities moving forward here?
Well, I think that there's three things that I really think are important. I mean, one is the business development in small, you know, particularly for small businesses in Rhode Island. I think we just need to, there's been so many issues with the Economic Development Corporation, and it seems to be a disconnect between the government and the business community, and I'm really looking to help work on that. I'm on the Small Business Committee, and I'm on the Corporations Committee, which deal with some of those issues, so I'm really pleased to be on those committees. And so that's one, is the small business community and just economic development in general. And the education is very important to me, and particularly early education. And even now, the research shows that from kindergarten to from birth to age 3 is one of the most important times in a child's life, and that they can even really determine by age 3, they can really find out, there's factors that they can look at to determine whether children are going to graduate from high school, and, you know, how well they're going to do in 3rd grade. So there's a lot of things that are just so important in that age group. So I think, you know, Portsmouth having all-day kindergarten, I think that's a huge, great thing, and I think we need to really put money towards education. We just have to do that as a state, and so I'm very concerned about that and involved with that. And then the third thing has been this toll issue. Has been a huge issue for our community. Absolutely. And I just can't believe that it just got slipped into the budget last year, and that we just can't seem to do anything about it. And I've really, you know, worked hard with the local delegation to try to, you know, turn that around. And there's many different aspects to that, so I've been working on that. So those are probably the 3 big ones.
Yeah, all of those certainly are very important to us here in Portsmouth, and particularly the economic development, small business development aspect of that. And we'll talk about that maybe later. I know probably the most visible of your efforts has been to sponsor gun control legislation for the state, and this is really kind of a third rail type of issue that there's heated opinions on all sides on this. Why is that an important topic to you? Well,
you know, I've been concerned about it for a while, and I think, you know, I grew up in Carmel, New York, which is only about 30 minutes from Newtown, and my father had a lumberyard in Newtown, and I used to work in the lumberyard, and it just hit home. I mean, it just hit home that it's a lot closer to us than we think it is, and, you know, and it was just horrific.
It was horrific.
It's horrific, and now that there's just more information out about this young man that committed it, and the arsenal of weapons that he had, and that we just have no control over what, you know, nobody knows who's buying guns and who's buying ammunition and who should have guns, and there's just a lot of really serious issues that are surrounding it, and I believe that the gun industry for so many years has just directed the narrative. They don't want to have any accountability. The gun manufacturers don't want accountability. The gun dealers in many states don't want accountability. And if you look at the laws that are on the books and you look at the situation that we have, it's mind-boggling. I mean, in Rhode Island, we don't have any kind of registration system for guns. Our local police departments don't know who has guns. We don't know who's buying ammunition. We need to set up some sort of a system to try to be able to pick these things up. We should be able to pick up when somebody's buying as much ammunition as Adam Lanza was buying. We should be able to if somebody has guns and they've committed a crime, we should have a record so we know we can take them away from them. It's really important, I think, and it's touching so many people.
Yeah. And I think a lot of these things around the country, Newtown and others, also show the importance of mental health issues and somehow having a system to deal with those.
Right. It's really important. I mean, there's two sides of the mental health issue because there's the patient rights and then there's also confidentiality. And in Rhode Island, there's those HIPAA laws that are national laws to prevent, to keep privacy. But Rhode Island's laws are even stricter than the national laws. And because they're so strict, that's one of the things that's prevented the state from contributing information to the NCIS system, which is the national registry. So we don't even submit any information to that system due to our HIPAA laws. So there's a lot of things that need to be changed that are common sense things and things that need to be looked at. And the mental health side of it is very important. It's particularly for people who have paranoia and delusions that are really seriously mentally ill. And I know this from experience. I have a family member that's had to be committed to a hospital, and it's almost impossible to get somebody that's seriously ill to get help. And particularly if they're over 18, it's almost impossible for them to get help. And we have to change that. We have to do something about it. I know in Connecticut there's a group, a town, and I'm not sure which one it is, but I heard about it on the radio. But when somebody has an episode that the family's really concerned, they can call this group, and this team goes out
and evaluates
and evaluates and deals with the family, and really we don't have that. We just don't have that, and we need that around the country, not just in Rhode Island. So.
See, and it's interesting because to me the issue is not just gun control, although there are plenty of opinions on that and even the different flavors of gun control.
Right.
It's hard to believe that people are arguing that we need a magazine of more than 5 or 6 shells to be legal, but apparently people do. And then there's the other side that say we don't want to register because we can't give our names to the government because they're the bad guys.
Right.
So I don't know. Let me ask you this, without getting into this gun control issue too much. What have you been learning about Rhode Island politics from touching that third rail?
Well, it's interesting. Yesterday, there was a group called Moms Demand Action, and they had a press conference up at the State House, and Governor Chafee came in for a few minutes to talk to the moms, and he said that back in, I think it was the 70s, his father introduced a law in the Senate to ban handguns, and it was before my time, so I don't remember it, but and he really had the toughest re-election race that he ever had after that, and it didn't go through, obviously.
Now that's to bear handguns in the assembly or handguns generally in the...
It's on the federal level, trying to ban handguns.
Okay, generally.
Yeah, and so it is a hot button issue, and it's been an issue that the pro-gun advocates are very vocal, they're very organized, and so they put a lot of pressure on the politicians. And I think, though, in Rhode Island, fortunately, our delegation in Washington is very much for gun regulation and looking for sensible laws. And I think but I think it has to come from the bottom up. I think that we have to, on a state level and a local level, there has to be discussion about gun laws, and I think that's where the decisions are going to be made about how we're going to do this. I mean, certainly, if there was national laws that prohibited the states from, doing online internet sales and, the closing the
making it too easy to get
Yeah,
these
I mean,
permits.
everybody uses the example of Chicago. Well, Chicago has the strictest gun laws in the country, but look at all the murders. Well, all the guns they're finding are coming from Mississippi. So how are all those guns getting there, and why aren't we doing something about that? You know, and
It's not a simple. It's not a simple question.
It's not a simple question or a simple answer, and you know, all I want to do is just to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to just make sure we don't have one of those incidents happen
Yeah, try
here.
to keep the kids safe.
Yep, exactly. And I think it's just starting to be the point where people that don't own guns are really being affected by the people that do own guns in so many ways. And you know, not just that they're being shot at, but just that it's costing our country billions of dollars in healthcare costs, and it's making us feel unsafe.
Yeah.
And I think it's an issue we need to really approach and talk about.
I think you're right, and I think there's probably a big majority, a silent majority, as we have in so many issues in this country, that needs to sit down and express their views, because I think that the debate seems to be picked up and run by the vested interest, more
exactly.
or less. And it'd be nice for the average guy in the street to say, wait a minute, I want to look at this, and I think we should do something or whatever.
Right, and I can't say enough about this Moms Demand Action Group, because they just started right after Newtown, and they have they're trying to assemble a block of people to counteract that force. And I think they're going to, you know, they already have 80,000 people in just a couple of months. So I think it's going to be a good thing. And you know,
I wish them luck. That's what we have to do, I think.
I think so too.
You know, I know you're a big advocate for better education in Rhode Island, and you've already talked about childhood development and how important it is. There are a couple of initiatives in business and other things that you're supporting up in Providence. One's called Beta Springs, which I looked up online, and it looked very interesting. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Beta Spring, I heard about it when we were having one of our economic forums for the legislature, and there's two young men. One of them is Owen Wilson. He's from MIT, and it's a very unique concept. I don't think it's being done anywhere else in the country. They started in 2009, and I just happened to visit them just a couple of days ago too. But it's really exciting. What they do is, it's called an incubator, and they run a program where it's a contest basically, and they take 12 to 15 entrepreneurial groups. It can't just be one person, it has to be more than one. And they apply for this program, and then they interview them, and they spend, half an hour on the phone with them and narrow it down. I guess they had over 100 applications in this last round in January, and they narrow it down through a process to get to 15, I believe it is. And now several of them are from India. They had 3 groups from India.
Oh, really? Internationally?
Internationally, so that, from around the country. So what they do is they come to Providence, and they have to come, and they have to stay in Providence for 12 weeks, and they assign mentors to them, and they, work to develop the concept, whatever it is. And so, and then now what they've done, it's just grown so much that now they even have added a second level called the Founders League. So once these groups are done in 12 weeks, they can go to this Founders League level, which allows them to rent space for a very low amount of money.
Here in Rhode Island?
Here in Rhode Island, right in Providence, they can rent for $150 a month. They have access to space where they have Wi-Fi, and they have, it's a basic office, but it's a different office than usual. It's an open space. And they're all mostly young people, so they can all communicate, and they can, talk to each other. So it keeps them from being isolated in an environment. And then what they do is they help them get venture capital money and angel funding. So so they've had 100 companies go through it, and it's pretty exciting. And like one of them, just as an example, there are a lot of them are technology and internet-based companies, but one of them is a company that they develop a teddy bear for children that have diabetes. So it's a teddy bear that kind of helps the child learn about diabetes and what they need to do, because they have to test themselves so many times a day, and they have to get their shots and do all that. But it's but it's a really wonderful program that's been really embraced by a lot of the doctors and medical people to just help children deal with a really difficult disease. So so they'll be able to get funding, and then they can hopefully relocate to Providence and stay in Providence. And and what this Owen has said is once they get to Providence, they love it. They love Rhode Island. And a lot of them really want to stay here. So I think it's just so important for us to make sure we can keep them here and do the right thing for them. So
well, I think relating to that is one of the things that we have in Portsmouth is called an enterprise zone, and I understand that that you, among others, are trying to get the enterprise zone tax exemptions and other things expand it a little bit to try to encourage people to come here to set up a business.
Exactly.
Can you talk a little bit about
yeah,
that?
I mean, unfortunately, one of the things that was proposed in the governor's budget this year was to eliminate the enterprise zones. So that's a big issue, and I know that our delegation is working with the Finance Committee to try to get them to consider keeping the enterprise zones. And then here in Portsmouth, the big issue is also is that the enterprise zone only applies to corporations, C corporations, so it doesn't apply to sub-chapter S corporations, which is what most of the small business corporations are when they're first starting out. So we're trying to change that so that the benefits will apply to also to those sub-S corporations as well.
Well, we do need help in economic development here in Portsmouth. You know, and one of the things last week, Dave Croston was on the program, and the school board chairman, and he was talking about something called STEAM, Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Mathematics, a program which it sounded very kind of interesting. Have you heard about it?
I have heard about it, and actually I saw Dave on Thursday. There was a program that RIDE put on about the funding formula for the state, because I wasn't, you know, didn't know as much about it as I should, and I'm excited about the STEAM programs. I mean, I think that one of the flaws in our public education is that we've been pulling back on the arts and pulling back on sciences and just focusing too much on the English and math to, you know, to sort of test to the test and all that, teach the test kind of thing. And so I think it's really exciting, and I think the exciting thing about what the Portsmouth School Committee is trying to do is they're trying to incorporate the STEAM Academy into the existing schools that we already have. And, you know, and I think that the charter schools are a good concept in that I know that we need to do something to just try to experiment.
I think there is a Newport County
yes.
STEAM, like a charter school.
Right. They're applying for down at the Boys and Girls Club in Newport, and I don't know that will affect Portsmouth that much.
Yeah.
Just
so Dave's idea is to incorporate it here into our own curriculum. Yeah.
Right. And I think it's just
very smart guy, by the way.
Very smart guy, and I really am impressed with what they're trying to do. It's very unique, and I think it's a really Portsmouth has one of the better school systems in the state, if not the best, and I think it's important to just keep innovating and trying to make it better than it is. And I know Dave's, you know, goal is to make sure that kids that are graduating from Portsmouth can go to the top engineering and, you know, engineering schools in the country, and we want to make sure that they have the ability to be able to keep kids in the school and give them that kind of experience. So I think it's really good.
Well, I first came here, but I came here in the Navy, and I eventually retired in the Navy. But the reason we moved to Portsmouth was because of the education system, and it had the best one then, and I think it has the best one now. So,
yep.
So obviously very important. Let me go back to another topic, though.
Sure.
It's near and dear to your heart. We've heard about Lou DePalma and Ray Gallison's efforts on the Secundit bridge tolls. How are you involved in the debate, and what do you think we can do here?
Well, I've been involved in it for a while, and actually Lou has a bill put in to eliminate the toll so that we wouldn't have a toll in the Secundit, and the funding would come from adding the $20 to the car registration fee. And I sponsored that in the House with Ray and Jay Edwards and Dennis, and I think that it's a huge issue, and we still haven't heard back from the Federal Transportation Authority.
I think a lot of things are going to come from that.
Yeah, so we have to hear back from them, and you know, the more that I've heard and looked into it, it's going to be very detrimental to our community, and particularly with the you know, now that the government's cutting back and it's going to affect the military, you know, the sequestration. It's going to. I don't know how that it can be ignored that the study came back and literally said that it's going to reduce traffic from the lower part of Massachusetts by 20%.
Yeah, and that's it.
And that's
the impact statement.
That's the impact statement, but that's okay. You know, I mean, they didn't think that was a negative thing, and it's not the findings from the report are not clear, and there's so many pages to it, and it's so complex. But I think that if they really read it, you know, I think that the decision might be that it is really going to have a big economic impact.
Well, I was quite proud of our town that we went up and challenged the legality of this whole thing, and because I think somebody needed to say that. And I give a lot of credit to our town lawyer Gavin and the town council, Jim 70, for putting this thing through and signing it. Hopefully that might have some impact in this thing, but it is a big one. And that $20 addition, that would have paid for essentially the maintenance of the bridges. I guess the other issue that many of us have is we really needed to go to the maintenance of the bridges and not somewhere else, because we saw what happened to the old Secundus River Bridge, which, and probably any other place, would be a criminal offense for letting that thing just go downhill like that.
Right.
But anyway, good luck on that one, because you've got all our support on that, I think. Another issue that Portsmouth has to face regarding schools and things is the losses in state funding, which are going to continue. And we seem to have lost more than many other towns and cities in Rhode Island. Is there anything we can do, or you can do, I guess, at the state level to try to help us in this area?
Well, that's a big issue and a big question. And I know that the governor is advocating for more money in the budget, but unfortunately, it does impact Portsmouth. And what they're trying to do, which is the right thing, is they're trying to make sure that the schools that have the students that are below the poverty level are getting more money, because they need more money for those students, and that's what they're trying to do. Is they're trying to level the playing field across the state so that every child is getting the education it should. And because Portsmouth population is, the student population has been going down, it's affecting Portsmouth negatively more than others. And so I think that I hope that we can continue with what we're doing. We've gotten these the money from the Race to the Top, and we're doing all these innovations. And I think, like particularly the innovation that the school committee is trying to do with these STEAM, that will be able to get some more money to come to the schools. And I'm going to do whatever I can, and I'm working with the Department of Education on early education efforts. But it's an issue that I'm not completely familiar with, and I'm learning a lot more about. But there's just, the money's tight, and it's
and
tough.
The thing is, a lot of people look at and say, well, why don't we just change the formula for? And the problem is, that's not an easy thing to do either. I mean, you have to do that based on some criteria.
Yeah, and the formula only starts with how much money they have. You know what I mean? And so there's only so much in the pot. But I think on a national level, there is much more of a focus on education, and so hopefully we'll be getting more federal funding as well, and that we don't have to rely so much on our own property taxes to keep the schools the way they are.
And another, this actually relates probably more to business development than anything else, but a lot of people drive through Portsmouth on their way to Newport or on their way to the Cape, or something like that. One of the things that'd be nice to have is something in Portsmouth that people might actually stop at and spend some money at. I mean, if there's any way you could encourage small businesses in your capacity on those committees to at least consider Portsmouth. We're doing this 375th celebration this year, and we're trying to showcase all the beautiful areas we have here for potential people to come to Portsmouth. Is there anything that you think we can do to kind of showcase the place and make it more attractive to business?
Right. Well, I think certainly the 375th, all the programs that you're doing are just tremendous. And I think that the way people get attracted to a community is that they're drawn here by something, and then they want to stay. And I run into so many people in Rhode Island that just move here just because they love it, and they want to be near the city.
That would be me, for example.
And so I think that we don't focus enough on why people want to live in Rhode Island and why it's such a great place to live, and we focus too much on these ratings, these business ratings, and the negatives. And to me, I think we should certainly address those and try to do what we can. But I think we need to focus more on our lifestyle and the quality of life that we have in Rhode Island, and how every time I drove over the bridge when I'm with my kids, I say, look at where we are. Like, this is where we live every day, and we're so lucky.
That's exactly what I do. I say, what a beautiful place this is,
Exactly, and I think we have to, focus on that, and also at some of these economic summits that I've been going to, one of the things that people say is that we're the hardest on ourselves. Rhode Island, they're so negative on our own. Exactly, and we need to somehow turn that around a little bit, and because certainly with Portsmouth, the schools are wonderful. The way the zoning is and the housing is really great. We have the water on both sides. I mean, it's close to Providence, close to Boston.
Close to Newport, say it. You have to say it.
Close to Newport as well. I mean, there's just so much going for it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we're getting down a couple of minutes here
Okay.
in time, but I don't know if you want to answer this. This is kind of a local issue. It's got to do with the Glen Manor area and the disposition of the Elmhurst School and the Aquidneck Land Trust proposal and all this kind of stuff. What do you think about this need to get open space and maintain open space for future generations? I mean, what do you think about the Glen project? Again,
That's a tough issue.
It's another third rail.
Yeah,
maybe,
I know,
but,
that's a tough issue. I think that the thing that needs to be done is I think you need a lot more dialogue because whatever decision gets made, it's going to be a huge, implication on the town either way. Whether you try to commercialize it and make it more friendly for, to attract business and to attract weddings, or do you just, have it be open space? And, whenever we lose an open space, you're never going to get it back again.
I think that's the thing we remember.
Exactly.
mostly.
And so I really think it just needs a lot of dialogue and a lot of input from the whole town and to come to that decision, because I think it's a tough decision. And I don't really have an opinion on it either way. I can see both sides of it, and I think the Aquidneck Land Trust has been doing a tremendous job on the island in keeping open space. But, the other argument I think is a reasonable one too, and I think that it's something that but I think that the town has to weigh in, and there has to be a good process to let everybody really weigh on the process.
I'm with you on that. I think that's the key. It's just letting people have a say on this thing somewhere.
Yeah.
We're down to within about half a minute. I'd just like to thank you for your interest in our Portsmouth 375th celebration this year. I know I sat next to you at that original Portsmouth Compact ceremony we had. What did you think of that?
Oh, I thought it was great. I thought it was just really fun, and it's such a positive thing. Everybody's there for one good reason, and we're trying to promote the town, we're trying to learn about the town. Brings people together. I think you're all doing just a tremendous job on it, and I really admire you because it's a lot of work. And
well, thank you, and thanks for being on the show. And I hope you'll continue to come to all of our events. At the
I'm going to try. I'm going to try my best. So
okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Sure.
Linda Finn, I appreciate you being here. And this is Doug Smith. We'll see you next time.
As part of Portsmouth, Rhode Island's 375th anniversary celebration, historian James Garman is doing a series of lectures on Portsmouth's history.
Hopefully this will stimulate people to get involved, to get interested, and hopefully we'll get some more writing going on.
Jim's next lecture, Portsmouth 100 Years Ago, will be given at the Portsmouth Town Hall at 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday, April 9th. Come and join us for a great experience on Portsmouth's rich historical past. More on the lecture series, including a video of Jim's first lecture, The Founding of Portsmouth, and other celebration information, is available on the Portsmouth 375th Celebration website, www.portsmouthri375.com. Come to Glen Park and join in celebrating Portsmouth's 375th year as part of Earth Day Sunday on April 21st. Enjoy the Navy Band Northeast Top Brass Quintet and then fly kites with expert Tom Castleman and hear storyteller and musician Lindsay Adler. At 2 p.m. we'll all gather to form a human heart and photograph it from above to show that we love Portsmouth. We'll also have a bounce house and free seed packets for the kids. All this and much more from 12:30 to 3:30 on Sunday, April 21st at Portsmouth's Glen Park, and it's all free. For more information on Earth Day Sunday and other 375th events, visit PortsmouthRI375.com.